Yastyaktvā rūpamadhyam prabhavati jagataha anikadha anugrahaya prakshena klesharashihi vishama vishadharaha anekavaktra subhogi sarvajnana prasutihi bhujaga parikaraha pritaye yasya nityam devo hishaha savo vyat sita vimalatanuhu yogado yogayuktaha yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi abahu purushakaram shankhachakrasidharinam sahasrashirasam shvetam pranamami Patanjalim Shrimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha Patanjala Mahabhashya Charaka Pratisamskritaihi Manovakaya doshanam Hartreya hipataye namaha Bhashyakrit sutrakrit chapi Nirmalantam suropinam Dhyataram Shripater Nityam Patanjalim Namamyaham So, very warm greetings, my friends. Last week we have completed the sutra that defines Abhinivesha. So, it brings us to the conclusion of the definitions of Kleśas. Patanjali has presented all the 5 Kleśas: Avidya, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha and Abhinivesha. And he has defined what these Kleśas are, and it is for us to now decide what we will do with it. That is what he is going to explain now in this part of the sutra. Te prati prasava heyaha sukshmaha. The second chapter of the Yogasutra is meant for those who are called as vyuthita chittas. That means people who normally have a disturbed state of mind. And that's why Patanjali is actually talking about the concept of Kleśas, because that is what disturbs our mind in the first place. In this section, Patanjali is now going to present what we have to do with the Kleśas. Te pratiprasavaheyaha sukshmaha. Te pratiprasavaheyaha. He says, we have to make the Kleśas. Te represents they. They means the Kleśas. Te pancha kleshaha pratiprasavaheyaha. They deserve to be made impotent. The word pratiprasavam comes from the derivation prati plus prasavam. Prasavam means pregnant, that means potent. A woman who is pregnant is potent with the seed which is about to give birth to a child. A vegetable or fruit that is potent means that it is about to manifest into its existence. It's got seeds and the seeds are taking shape. Kleśas have their own seeds. Our seeds of actions are normally based on the Kleśas. That's why Kleśas are considered somehow our seeds of actions. Now, what do you do when you don't want the seeds to grow? Well, you have to make them impotent. That is what is called pratiprasavam, because the seeds are there. My mother is a gardener and we have a lot of plants in our house, and there are some plants that she likes and some plants that she does not like. Like for example, the flowers and the vegetables that she has consciously planted are the plants that she wants to grow. But unfortunately, those are not the only plants in the garden. There are plants, there are seeds in the soil, like those which are considered weeds, for example, that can be dangerous to the plants that we are consciously planting. So it's not enough if we nourish the plants that we want to grow. It's also important that we somehow make impotent the plants that we don't want to grow. The plants that we don't want to grow. That's what we have to do. Like a gardener is removing the weeds as it grows from the roots, or sometimes removing the seeds that have fallen by mistake. They have to remove those seeds. And it's easier to remove those weeds, those plants that are not good, when they are very small, not when they are very big. Because the effort it takes is lesser. So when the plants are growing in a small manner, so you put some seeds in the soil and you start watering them, give them some good sunlight, so the plants start to grow. Which plants? Not only the plants that we have planted, but also the weeds that are already existing in the soil. You cannot avoid it. You cannot say, I only want this plant to grow, not that plant to grow. And that's why it becomes very important that when these things start to come, we remove those weeds when they are very tiny. That's why Patanjali uses the word te pratiprasaveyaha sukshmaha. Sukshma, when they are very small, when they are very subtle, when they are very weak in potency. So if you take a roots of a weed that is very small, that is new, the roots are not very deep. So you can just easily pull it out. Whereas if you let it become as big as the main plant and it starts to grow big, the roots become very deep. And not only the roots become very deep, but it may also in turn drop some more seeds, so that those seeds are also entering the soil. So that is why it's very important for us to remember that we have to work with the Kleśas when they are very tiny, so that the effort that is required to remove the Kleśas are easy. There is a story in our Indian mythology or history which talks about this. Apparently there was a very wise and noble king, and he ruled the kingdom very justly and very nicely, very fairly, with a lot of dharma. He ruled the kingdom. But then what happened was, he had a son who was very different from him, very young boy, very proud, very arrogant. and who was very angry and short-tempered, and anybody who would not agree with him, he would fire them, he would ask the guards to kill them or put them in prison, etc. So nobody wanted to teach the boy because they were all afraid. All the teachers were afraid to teach the boy. They all told the king, "Sir, we don't want to teach your boy. He is very rude, very angry, and it is very dangerous for us. We don't want to teach him." The king got very concerned because it was the only son he had, and he had come after a long time, and somehow he wanted his son to become a good king like himself, at least an educated king, not to be rude and impolite to everybody in the kingdom, because then there will not be people who like him, who support him. So he was wondering what to do with him because nobody is willing to teach the boy. So he put word out that if anybody could teach his son and transform his son from being this kind of an misbehaved child to a well-behaved son, he would be very grateful and it would be a great service to the kingdom. But the reputation of the boy was so big that nobody wanted to come forward. Finally, one very elderly, wise man was there living in the forest. He heard about it and then he thought to himself, okay, the boy is bad and everybody is afraid of him. But if we don't take steps now, in the future it will be dangerous for the kingdom. So it is my duty, my dharma, to offer help, to help this boy. So he goes to the king, he approaches the king and says, "Sir, I am willing to take responsibility for your son. I will take responsibility and educate him as quickly as possible so that the future of the kingdom is maintained." So the king is very grateful. He said, "Look, if you do it, I will really reward you very well." And the old man says, "I don't want any reward, sir. I only want the kingdom to be very safe. But I would like to take your son on one condition. You have to command him that he should come and stay with me in my house in the forest, and he must have no other contact with anybody while his training is going on. He must bring no soldier as his bodyguards, nobody. I will take good care of him in the way it is deserving for a student who is to be educated." The king was even more happy. He said, "Please, if that is all you want, I will send him." So he calls his son and says, "As a king, I am ordering you to go with this teacher. He will teach you, and when he feels you are ready to return to the kingdom, you will return." So the king is taking the boy to the forest. The boy already starts to get angry because the boy is used to luxury. Big palace, clean palace, so many soldiers at his command, so many servants at his command. And here in the forest, this old man is living alone in little hut, not so clean, mud floor, not cushioned, comfortable bed. So the boy is already complaining. It's like what some of the Western people who come to India complain about, because in Western society everything is so comfortable, clean roads, clean houses, clean water, no pollution, forest is so nice. In India, Chennai especially where I live, pollution is so high. Chennai is second most polluted city in India after Delhi. There's so much traffic jam, so much noise. Luxury is not there. We cannot just open the tap and drink some water. No quiet place nearby. So people will complain, they get agitated. Same way the young boy was very agitated. He was fighting with the old man. "How can you live in this place? Human beings cannot live in this place." The old man said, "My dear son, I am almost 90 years old. I have been living all my life here. See, I am survived. So don't worry, you will also survive. You are a young and strong boy, you will survive. I will help you." So the old man takes the young boy to the hut and says, you will sleep there on the floor. Tomorrow morning we will begin classes. So the old man says, okay. The young boy says, okay. So he tries to sleep. He's turning and turning because he's not able to sleep on the floor. He's not used to it. Mosquitoes are biting him. So many mosquitoes are there. There is noise of the forest, birds and animals. It's not so quiet. The old man is sleeping very peacefully. Next day morning, the old man wakes up and he is preparing some food for the young boy. And the young boy gets up and comes. The old man says, how are you? He says, I am not good. I am not happy. The old man says, oh, it's okay. You will get used to all these things in a few days. Don't worry. But before we begin, I want you to drink this as your morning breakfast. This is your porridge, your breakfast. Please drink. So this old man makes a little bowl of very simple meal with the most bitter tasting neem leaf inside that. And the boy drinks it and is so agitated because it tastes so bad. He throws the bowl down and he says, what is this? The old man says, oh, this comes from this neem plant that is there. It's very healthy for your digestion. I don't like it. Which plant? The old man shows a plant. The neem plant is very small. And a tender neem plant is even more bitter than an older neem plant. So the boy goes and grabs the neem plant, removes it and throws it. He says, this plant is so bitter it should not live. So the old man says, okay, don't worry. So he says to the young boy, okay, today go and go around in the forest and go and see how many different kinds of animals are there, how many different birds are there, come back in the evening. So that is his learning for the first day. The boy does something, comes back. Next day, same ritual. The old man makes another bowl of soup and gives it to the boy. And the boy drinks it and it's still bitter. He breaks it. He says, I destroyed that plant yesterday. Where did you get this again? So the old man says, don't worry, son. I got it from this shrub, neem shrub, which is about this big. So the young boy goes immediately. He tries to pull the shrub with a lot of effort. He pulls it and throws away. Of course, it's not as easy as the young plant from before because the shrub has grown even bigger. But he manages it. Young boy, he manages it. He throws it away. So the old man just looks quietly and says, okay. So then he gives a little bit more work for him that day. So the boy goes and finishes the work, comes back. Next day morning, once again, the old man gives a bowl of this neem porridge. And the boy is even more angry. He says, how come you are getting this all the time, every day? Where is your source today? And the old man says, look at that tree. That is the neem tree from which I am getting you this neem leaf. So please, that is where it is coming from. The boy immediately wants to destroy that tree. He says, I want an axe, I want an axe. So he goes and finds an axe that the old man is having, and he tries to chop the tree, tries to chop the tree. But what can a little boy of 8 or 9 years old do with such a big neem tree? After some time, he gives up and he collapses. And he starts to cry, oh, I cannot destroy this tree. I cannot destroy. So the old man at that time gives him his first sermon. He says, it is the same, my dear boy. Your anger, your frustration, your behavior when you are young is easy to change. If you continue to become older and with all of these bitter feelings that you have, it will become even more difficult to change. So you better change now that you are young than when you are older. Just like this tree, you will not be able to destroy it. You will be only collapsing with this. For the first time, the boy listens to the master and starts to pay attention. And slowly, over a period of time, with this master, he changes. And one day, he returns back to his father, to the kingdom. And the king is very, very happy that the boy has had this transformation. Now this is exactly what Patanjali is talking about. When Kleśas are very small, that's the time we can easily deal with it. When Kleśas are becoming bigger, then the Kleśas start to put roots in other activities as well, and then it becomes much more difficult to remove the Kleśas because it spreads. So that's why Patanjali says, Te pratiprasavayaha sukshmaha. In our life, when Kleśas are beginning to dominate, we must start paying attention when the problem is small already, rather than say, okay, I will postpone it. Okay, I will postpone it. Okay, I will postpone it. Because the more you postpone the problem gets more power and becomes bigger and bigger, and at some point it will become so unmanageable that we will not be able to resolve all the problems. That is why when the problems are small, it is the best moment. Modern people, we like to delay dealing with problems because of laziness, because of fear, because we really think, oh, small problems should not be a big issue. We will delay it, we will delay it, we will delay it. You take even a disease. When the disease is small, it's easy to deal with it. You go to any medical doctor, any Ayurvedic doctor, any medical professional from any field, they will tell you, when the disease is in its early stages, it's more easy to deal with it. When the disease has proceeded to a very later stage, it's more difficult to deal with it. More difficult. Ayurveda talks about disease going through 6 stages of evolution. The earlier stage we deal with it, the more easily we can resolve the problems. The more later we deal with it, the more complicated it becomes, the more expensive it becomes. In modern times, medicine and surgeries are more expensive. Whereas when you slightly have only a neck pain, you deal with it. That neck pain, okay, you can do some simple pranayama, simple movement of the neck, maybe a little bit of oil massage yourself. Maybe the pain goes away, but you let it grow. That proceeds to control the heart, because the nerves passing through the neck and shoulders controls the heart. So over a period of time, the blood pressure rises, then heart gets affected, we get a heart attack. Then we have to go through a surgery, we have to spend money, we have to spend money for the surgery and spend money by not earning money because we cannot go to work. Whereas if we paid attention when it was sukshma, when it was tiny, then there is no problem. That's why in any problem, whether it is life problem, professional problem, medical problem, when the problem is tiny, we have to deal with it. When Kleśas are tiny, we have to deal with it, not when it grows. Even when we look at problems like relationships, when couples have misunderstanding which is very small, it is better to talk about those misunderstandings, resolve those misunderstandings already at that time, than to proceed it to a later stage where the misunderstanding starts to influence all other dimensions of life. Then we forget what was the original problem and we start fighting about different things. So this is a very important thing as well, that even in relationship conflicts, it is better to address them when problems are small. When small problems start to show up, which is the nature of any relationship, it is better to resolve it than avoid dealing with it and postponing it to another time. So that's why the concept of sukshma is very important. This is the first idea that I would like to communicate about this sutra. Another important idea is the concept of pratiprasavam. The word pratiprasavam means to make it impotent. It's a very strong message that Patanjali is saying. Kleśas cannot be removed. We cannot remove the Kleśas. They cannot be destroyed. The only person free of Kleśas is Purusha Vishesha Ishvara. Only the divine God, divine Lord is free from Kleśas. All other humanity is affected by Kleśas. Even Patanjali, in the chant we are doing in the beginning for Patanjali, which is composed by the great Vyasa, Yas Tyaktva Rupamadhyam Prabhavati Jagataha Anekada Anugrahaya Prakshina Klesha Rashihi. What Vyasa says is, Patanjali, in whom the Kleśas are greatly reduced. He doesn't say Patanjali is free from Kleśas. Nobody is free from Kleśas. No human being is free from Kleśas, which is a very strong punch in our ego's face. We are not perfect. We are not manufactured perfect by our parents. We are not manufactured perfect by our society. So there is no human being who is free from any of the Kleśas. We will have one of them, two of them, or all of them. I can sincerely say I have all of them. And I am not alone. The whole world is full of Kleśas. Some degree we have avidya, some degree we have asmita, some degree we have raga, some degree we have dvesha, some degree we have abhinivesha. So we cannot act as if we are perfect, like many modern spiritual gurus are promoting themselves on TV and internet and everywhere, where they say, oh, we are perfect, we will save you. Be careful of such people, because that is not really the correct approach. There is nobody perfect. Nor must we project that other people are perfect. We must not project that our teacher is perfect, nor our parents are perfect, nor our partners are perfect, nor our friends are perfect. Nobody is perfect. We will all have Kleśas. This is very, very important. That's why the word pratiprasavam is used. The Kleśas become impotent. They are made not to act. It's almost like what Vyasa is explaining in the commentary. Dagda bija kalpa. He says, you have some seeds. Bija means seeds. Now, you plant a seed, it will grow. Every fruit will have some seed, because the very nature of fruits is to give seeds. So if you plant that seed in the right soil, in the right season, and nourish it, it will grow. The way to make it not grow, you nicely roast it. For example, nowadays we eat pumpkin seeds. You take pumpkin seed and nicely roast it on a fire, it will not grow anymore. You take chestnut, many Asian countries they are selling chestnut, they burn it. Now that burnt chestnut will not grow. That's what is called Dagda bija. You burned the seed. Dagda means to burn. Dagda bija means you burned the seed, so it's no more potent. Our seeds will be there, but we have to make it impotent. Now we need a fire to burn the seed. What is that fire that burns the seed? That's where tapas comes, our practice. Through practice, we are gaining the fire of jnanam, jnana agni. The jnana agni balat, through the power of The fire of knowledge. Knowledge is not learning Sanskrit or science or history in textbooks. This jnanam is the knowledge of the divine, the knowledge of the self, self-realization. That is the opposite of avidya. That is the opposite of avidya. When we have that knowledge will burn the seed of Kleśas. That knowledge will burn the seed of Kleśas, and therefore the seeds of the Kleśas will no more act anymore. They will become impotent. They will become impotent. So that's why Patanjali is saying to us, when they are very fine, burn it, because you need less fire to burn. When you have a lot of Kleśas, you need a lot of fire that can not only burn the seed but also ourselves. So that's why this has to be practiced, and Patanjali is using a very fine word, sukshma. And I have to say this, my friends. It's very important to know that in any spiritual path, when we start engaging in spiritual path, both our positive and negative seeds will be nourished. The sunlight does not discriminate whether it's a good plant or a poisonous plant. It gives light to both. Generously. It does not discriminate, saying, oh, I give more light to the good plant, less light to the poisonous plant. Both plants are given the sunlight generously. The same way, when we practice yoga sadhana, when we practice any spiritual practices, the prana, the light, will be generously shown to both our positive seeds and negative seeds. That's why when many people engage in the spiritual path, sometimes the positive seeds are nourished, sometimes the negative seeds are nourished, and they go in the wrong way. I have seen so many yoga practitioners from long time. They have done intense practices, but not only good things have come, but also dark things have come out. And sometimes when the dark thing has not been dealt with, it takes over. It has happened to people I know very closely. It has happened to myself. It has happened to many other of my colleagues who are yoga teachers. And I feel very fortunate, I feel very lucky that when it happened to me, I was still very young, and I still had the great support and guidance of my teacher, my father, who could take me away from that path and bring back to the lightness, so that I am able to guide others and able to see this in others. Because this is a reality. Yogic path will move prana in us very generously. And we have seeds of darkness and brightness in all of us. There is no discrimination. We all have Kleśas. We all also have good sides. That's why we need a guide who can guide us in the spiritual journey. We cannot do self-treatment or treatment through incompetent guides. It's like in medicine. A person cannot just go to pharmacy and say, give me this medication because I want to self-medicate. Or he or she cannot go to a medical doctor who is not qualified. Some people call themselves medical doctors, but they are not. They are quacks, charlatans. They just want to cheat people, fool people. They go to such people, and then they get suffering as well, because they also cannot give the right medication. The same with yoga and other spiritual paths. We need a genuine guide. We need help. Those who have gone through this path in a very serious way, because they will be able to guide us appropriately. I am very fortunate because I had a very good guide, and our family has been practicing yoga for many generations. If you see the list of acharyas behind me in the photograph, in the painting, our earliest acharya that we can directly trace through our bloodline is Nathamuni, who is born in 823 AD. That's about 1200 years. There is a direct bloodline. Spiritual line to Nammalvar is even greater, goes till 3000, 3500 years. So we have a lot of experience in our tradition in these topics, which is not there in many other traditions, and that's why many people get misguided in the yogic path as well. Patanjali warns us here. He says it is not possible for us to be free of Kleśas. Therefore, we have to make it important, because when we engage with practices, just like our positives will start coming out, also dark things will come. When you read our mythology, you will read the story of the Kurma avatar of Vishnu. We have the story of Samudra Mathana, the churning of the ocean. When they are churning the ocean to get the nectar of immortality, a lot of positive things come, a lot of toxic things also come. It's a metaphor that in our spiritual path, when we engage in our spiritual path, many gifts will also come, but many dark things will also come. And that we have to deal with as well, especially when they are small. Because as we allow them to grow with the positives, one will take over the other, and we are all finished. And that's why, my friends, it's very important to listen to Patanjali and deal with these problems when they are tiny through the help of capable guides and appropriate practices, and most importantly with humility in our hearts. That's why this is a very important sutra that we have to pay attention to, because Kleśas are in everybody. There is nobody free from Kleśas, and we have to deal with it. Another important thing I would like to say before concluding this sutra is that Patanjali, Vyasa and other great commentators have really talked about something very significant. Even if we today achieve enlightenment, where from this moment on we are free from the influence of Kleśas to the rest of our life, still all those actions before this moment that were based on the Kleśas will continue to have a karmic ripple effect. You may be free from this moment onwards, but you are not free from the past actions which you have acted based on Kleśas. Their karma will have to play out before they get dissolved. So it doesn't mean that if we are enlightened today, all the mistakes we did in the past does not count. No. All those mistakes, they still count. Only thing is, your accumulation of bad karma is not happening. So from this moment on, you will not add more bad karma, but whatever bad karma you have done so far, that will continue to have a ripple effect until its effect wears out. This is also a very important aspect that Patanjali, Vyasa, Vedanta Deshika and many others remind us very strongly, that karma cannot be erased just because you are enlightened, especially Klesha karma. Nobody wants to eliminate good karma. Everybody wants to eliminate the Klesha karma, the karma that comes out of our Kleśas. It's not possible. That's why it's important to remember that we say nip it at the bud. In English there is a saying, nip it at the bud, which means when it's small, cut it, so that the karma is also not accumulating greater. This is a very important reminder, my friends, because especially in today's life, we have become so busy. We are running from one place to the other. We don't have time to look at our own Kleśas. Especially when they are small, we ignore it because we are so busy in catching up with life. What Patanjali says is, don't ignore the Kleśas, because if you ignore, you will not catch up with life. Kleśas will catch up with you. Namaste, my friends.